Imagine a financial system where organized crime doesn't just live in the shadows, but sits across the table from CEOs, politicians, and bankers cutting deals, financing businesses, and shaping markets. For much of modern Japanese history, that wasn't fiction. That was the Yakuza. Popular culture shows them as tattooed enforcers and cigarette-smoking gangsters, but behind that image lies something far more revealing. The Yakuza weren't just criminals, they were economic actors, building vast corporate empires that blurred the line between black market muscle and boardroom strategy. Their story is a warning of what happens when crime, finance, and politics get so intertwined that you can't tell where one ends and the other begins. The Yakuza's roots stretch back to the 17th century. Two groups of gamblers and street peddlers. They thrived on the margins of society, offering protection, loans, and a sense of brotherhood to outcasts. But what started as small-time street gangs grew into a parallel economy. By the 19th century, they controlled gambling, loan sharking, and smuggling. They weren't just parasites on the economy, they were part of it, acting as twisted financial intermediaries when the state was weak. The real turning point came after World War II. Japan was in ruins, and black markets exploded. And who controlled those markets? The Yakuza. They built fortunes smuggling goods and loaning money in the chaos. For many people, dealing with the Yakuza wasn't a choice. It was survival. As Japan recovered, the Yakuza adapted. They started presenting themselves as legitimate businessmen, with syndicates like the Yamaguchi-gumi operating from offices with receptionists and corporate hierarchy. They invested in construction, real estate, and entertainment. Provided services to corporations collecting debts, breaking strikes, or securing land. For companies that wanted results fast, the Yakuza were more efficient than lawyers. It wasn't clean, but it was profitable. By the 1960s, the Yakuza were deeply embedded in Japan's booming economy. They controlled huge parts of the entertainment industry and speculated heavily in real estate. They even practiced a form of financial engineering, using intimidation to acquire land and then sell it at inflated prices. They laundered money through shell companies and created investment networks that rivaled legitimate firms. This was an open secret. Politicians used them for fundraising, corporations used them for business deals, and even banks sometimes financed their projects. Why? Because everyone profited. The Yakuza were a shadow financial system, running parallel to the official one. Then came the 1980s, Japan's bubble economy. Real estate prices in Tokyo became absurd. For the Yakuza, this was paradise. They poured money into speculation, flipping land and manipulating stocks with a mix of cash and coercion. They mastered the art of Sokaiya, corporate extortion. Yakuza agents would buy shares, attend shareholder meetings, and threaten to expose embarrassing secrets unless they were paid off. For Japan's biggest corporations, these payments were just another cost of doing business. Major banks often turned a blind eye, sometimes even lending directly to Yakuza front companies. But nothing lasts forever. In 1989, the bubble burst. Real estate values collapsed, and trillions in paper wealth vanished. For the Yakuza, it was a crisis, but also an opportunity. As companies fell into insolvency, syndicates stepped in to collect debts and seize property. Their willingness to use intimidation gave them an edge when others hesitated. By the 1990s, Japan could no longer ignore the damage. Anti-gang laws were passed, and police cracked down. Yakuza memberships started to decline, but they adapted again, moving further into the shadows. They operated through shell companies and overseas accounts. They became harder to see, but no less real, expanding into global markets and cybercrime. The Yakuza story exposes a universal truth. Crime and capitalism are often twins. When formal systems are slow or rigid, crime provides speed and ruthlessness. The methods of the Yakuza, perfected money laundering, corporate blackmail, political financing exist everywhere. The difference was that in Japan, it was institutionalized and highly visible. The lesson is that financial systems are never as pure as they appear. The Yakuza may have been Japan's most famous example, but the principle is global. Whenever money and power concentrate, crime doesn't just feed off the system, it becomes part of it. The world's most dangerous empires aren't always built with guns, but with balance sheets and contracts. If this gave you a new perspective, hit that subscribe button. History, as the answers I'll show you where to look.